Congratulations! You made the Varsity, the podcast. My name is John Ourand, and I am Puck's sports correspondent and the host of this pod. Today, we're joined by Matt Hong. Matt runs USA Sports, which is the sports division overseeing the former NBC cable channels that are now called Versant. That's USA Network and Golf Channel, basically. CNBC also carries some games, but it's really just USA and Golf. And those channels have deals with big sports groups like NASCAR, the PGA Tour, the Premier League, WWE, WNBA, Pac-12. I could go on. Matt's been in the business for a while. I've known him for at least a couple of decades. He used to be the COO of Turner Sports for 11 years. And for my money, he's one of the smartest minds in the business. I'm really happy that he's joined us. But before we get to Matt, today is Sunday, December 14th, and here's what I'm watching. Today, I'm not limited to just one thing. Here are two topics that I'm covering right now. First, my focus is on Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where Michael Jordan, yes, the NBA Hall of Famer, emerged as the clear winner coming out of the antitrust lawsuit that he filed against NASCAR. You see, Jordan is the part owner of a NASCAR racing team, and on Thursday, toward the end of a federal antitrust lawsuit, Jordan's team and another NASCAR team called Front Row Motorsports reached a settlement with NASCAR that, to me, should have been reached months ago. The thing is, Jordan got what he really wanted out of this deal, a permanent charter that will allow his team to race in every NASCAR Cup level race. NASCAR wanted those charters to be temporary and renewable. Now, to every courtroom observer that I spoke with, it was clear from the start that NASCAR was losing this case. And it's mystifying to me that the sport didn't come to a settlement earlier. Puck's legal expert, Eric Gardner, told me that a settlement seemed like a foregone conclusion because the judge was leaning on both sides to reach an agreement. And he said NASCAR had to have known that it was facing a losing battle based on several pretrial decisions from the judge. Plus, when there are such big stakes involved, juries are always risky for both sides, really, but especially for NASCAR, as it was in court against such a famous hometown hero. I mean, imagine trying to convince a jury in Charlotte, North Carolina to rule against Michael Jordan. And second, one quick note on the WWE. I attended John Cena's final match in Washington, D.C. on Saturday night. I taped this pod just before it. But you can already tell how popular that event is. Capital One Arena sold out. Ticket prices on the secondary market approaching 4 figures. This is a legitimately big event. And to me, it represents something that every league in America intuitively knows, and that is the importance of star power. And yes, John Cena is a bankable star. Okay, let's get to USA Sports' Matt Hong. Matt Hong, it is really a pleasure to have you on the pod here. You're a longtime industry veteran, and then you decided to hitch your wagon in the 2020s to cable television and Versant. Before we talk about what you're doing with USA Sports and the different networks, talk to me about the conversations that you had like going through to actually become part of Versant.
Well, John, first of all, it's good to see you after all these years. You look good, and thanks for having me. So I think I might have even discussed this with you back in 2019 when I departed my previous situation at TNT Sports, that I wasn't sure that I would work in television again, it was a unique call that I got from Mark Lazarus in April or so of this past year. And, Mark and I have known each other for a number of years, and we had spoken, and I had kept up with him joining Versant from NBCU. I wasn't sure if we were, when he texted, I wasn't sure if we were going to catch up on a personal level or if he was going to talk to me about Versant, which wasn't even named Versant yet at the time. My skepticism for working in television. Once I heard Mark's vision for the future strategy, once he informed me about who some of the colleagues that he was bringing over and who were joining from NBCU would be, guys like Anand Kinney and Dave Patrika, who had wonderful careers at NBCU and could have stayed and been difference makers there, but they had committed to this vision and the strategy that Mark was putting forward at Versant. And so between talking to Mark and Anand and Dave, my skepticism for continuing to grind away corporately in the TV business versus looking at transforming the business and growing it via new investment, whether it's organic or inorganic. That was I went from skeptic to being fully on board pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're preaching the gospel now, but I always find this to be interesting, and the advice I always give to people younger in their career is that where a company is headed is of course important, and you have to look at that, but who you're working with. And Mark Lazarus is who I'm sure you knew back at Turner back in the day. He was at Turner, and he's been at NBC for the longest time. A very well respected executive in the business. So as you're making the decision, of course you're sitting down and you have to believe in the plan, or you're not going to do it. But
Right.
if you could do like a percentage of like, what, it was the people that I was going to work with, and who cares what we're going to be selling out there, versus, what, I really do believe in this plan, and I think this plan will work.
Yeah, so most people reasonably think that Mark and I worked together at Turner, but we ended up, John, missing each other just by weeks. And so, when I started Turner, I joined Turner Sports in April of 2008, which seems like two lifetimes ago in terms of this industry for sure. But as I started looking at that
Cable
opportunity,
was still on the upswing then, Matt.
we've got a plan. We'll get to that. We'll get to that soon.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But as I began looking at the Turner Sports opportunity in 2008, I had not worked in sports before, so I was working at Thomson, now Thomson Reuters at the time. I had worked at AOL as a fellow DC resident of yours for 7 years, and I called folks that were working in sports or in television media, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about this Turner Sports opportunity?" And 100% of the people said, "Hey, that's a great opportunity, and you should strongly consider it." But a noteworthy number of people also said, one of the shames is that as much as you'll like the leadership at Turner Sports and Turner, the person that from a style perspective or from a culture and EQ perspective, or maybe that's most similar to you in terms of how they prioritize culture and EQ, that person just left. And so and that person was Mark Lazarus. And so I heard Mark's name for the first time as I was looking at the Turner opportunity in 2008, in the context of people saying, it's too bad that if you go there, you'll just have missed each other, as great as an opportunity as exists at Turner and Turner Sports. When more than 5 people tell you the same thing about somebody, you eventually meet that person and kind of get to know that person. And that was Mark and myself, shortly after I joined Turner Sports. And we just maintained, a discussion and a dialogue. And Mark and I had talked about the possibility of me joining him at NBC, prior to when I joined Versant, and it was never the right opportunity, or there were family in Atlanta, kids in Atlanta, that type of situation. So when we chatted about the Versant opportunity, Mark even opened with the fact that, well, you're an empty nester, and maybe that changes things a little bit. But really, it was, as you noted, John, it was probably 50-50 in terms of me buying into the business strategy that we're going to transform this company and continue to invest in the core assets, which is linear television, but we're going to also healthily invest in these adjacent digital businesses, which we'll talk about. So that was a strategy that I really gravitated to. But if it were just the business strategy and it weren't people like Mark and Anand and Dave Patrica, and then, Jeff Benke, our executive producer at USA Sports, who I had worked with previously at Turner Sports, and Tom Knapp, who runs Golf Channel, and Celia Cole, who oversees our rights acquisitions. If it weren't for the people, I don't know that based on the strategy as solid as I may think it is, would have been enough, just in terms of other things that I was working on and getting enjoyment out of. So I think it was probably a healthy 50-50 in terms of being bought in both to the business strategy for Versant and for USA Sports, but also the rest of the leadership team and the culture, and just what I can heartily confirm 6 months in, just enjoying the people that you work with, whether it's folks on the senior leadership team at Versant or folks on the leadership team and everybody on the team at USA Sports. There's just for me personally, a real enjoyment in working with these people. I think we've got, and it starts with Mark. I think he brought over or picked what I say internally is the highest combination of IQ, but also EQ leaders, that he had access to. And so it's been super enjoyable for me from a culture and a teamwork perspective, and that really makes it more fun.
The part of that answer that I like so much is you mentioned empty nesting. Nobody told me how great empty nesting was going to be. It afforded you the opportunity to just move cities and go wherever you want to get the job done. All right, so Mark calls
you. Who gave me, the person who gave me the best advice about empty nesting was, I think, on your podcast just a couple weeks ago, but it was Steve Bornstein. And so, it was really, I think we were a year away from being empty nesters. And, I saw Steve at a V Foundation board meeting, and I updated him on that. And he gave me the best advice, which is sort of, not to sit around and just, look at each other and wonder what your kids are doing, but really to lean into it.
All right, so you've been having this dance with Mark for a while. He wanted to bring you over to NBC. Give me his elevator pitch on the business. You understand the culture, you understand the people, you're sold on that. What's the elevator pitch on why? How did he convince you that it was a good idea to jump into the cable business again?
Yeah, kind of my version, or the overlay that I would put on Mark's elevator pitch of it is that we're going to play a different game than other traditional media companies. We're not going to solely look at things the way, whether it was at NBCU or whether it was me at Turner, solely the way we're not going to look at the industry or what we're trying to do or our strategy or our success through the same lens that media companies in the past have done it. We're sort of playing a different game. And that's namely that we're going to be a different or a modern media company going forward. And, whereas 100% of revenue or EBITDA or cash flow for a traditional media company comes from airing programming and monetizing that programming through distribution revenue and advertising revenue, we'll certainly do that. That will continue to be a healthy part of our business for years and years and years to come. But really, the lens at which we'll look through growth and success will be, or the growth and evolution and success will be through new adjacent digital businesses. So, the example that I use for us in sports is if you look at Golf Channel and the adjacent businesses of Golf Now and Golf Pass, that vertical of golf. So everything we do in terms of airing programming on Golf Channel, plus the majors and the Ryder Cup that we have on USA Network, that's only about 50% of the current revenue for our golf vertical at Versant. When you take the revenue and the financials of Golf Now and Golf Pass and combine those with, the traditional or linear revenue that we get on Golf Channel and on USA Network, it's about 50-50. And so really that model that currently exists for us in the golf vertical, we're going to apply that to the rest of sports. That's the goal for the rest of Versant, whether it's news or financial news or entertainment. It's really, looking at it through that lens that we're going to try and compete and that we're going to try and grow. And that's just different from media companies in the past, including the assets that we have at Versant when they were at NBC Universal.
I want to dive deeper into that. Let me take a quick break, and I just want to ask you a question about. I understand the Golf Channel aspect of it. How does that apply to, say, NASCAR on USA? And we'll talk about that when we get back. Matt, are you a golfer? Do you golf?
I think the USGA and the PGA of America would consider me a lapsed golfer, but I'm
Well,
working hard to get back. I'm working hard
you
to
know enough about
to
it.
prospect.
The side business. I called it side. You probably would kill me for calling it a side business, but the businesses that the Golf Channel has with in terms of doing tee times and doing there's a built-in. I can totally see, because they've been successful with it for years. I can see how that was going to be successful. On USA, you have the WNBA, you have NASCAR. What are the digital extensions that you can build around those types of sports with on USA? So how does that strategy apply over there?
Yeah. I mean, as you note, golf is probably the most obvious vertical within sports or within Versant where we can be successful. And we've had, incredible success thus far because the crossover between those who watch golf and those who participate in golf is high. So that's probably not an exact, we won't try to exactly replicate that for a NASCAR or for a WWE, as you note, just because the participation crossover is not as high. What I will say is that, golf is a lifestyle, or participating, not necessarily by playing, but by consuming it in some form or fashion, golf outside of just watching golf, that's what we'll seek to do in the rest of our sports areas or the rest of Versant. And so it's really about capturing attention and participation in quotes, even if you're not necessarily participating in the game itself, but participating or capturing activity related to the other sports that we may air, or related to, for instance, programming on CNBC or programming on MS Now, outside of when folks are specifically watching those linear channels. And so it won't necessarily be, again, as you know, participating in the driving of a race car, or participating in entertainment wrestling like WWE, but it will be about finding synergistic businesses where folks spend their time when they're not watching that programming on our networks.
So, is there a specific example that you're looking at, or anything that with regards to any of the sports that you have there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say more to come in terms of things that we're looking at, but we're not ready yet to announce. But I do think a lot of the role, whether it's for myself in sports or for our other leaders, Casey Sullivan for CNBC or Rebecca Cutler for MS Now, is looking at these inorganic, adjacent, synergistic businesses that, if they were to be a part of Versant, could really help drive that growth or transformation that we've talked about. So nothing specific to share just yet, but you will be the first to know.
I like that. Thank you very much. When is a spinoff? That's coming in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. So from a technical perspective, Friday, January 2nd will be when, if you're a Comcast shareholder, you'll then hold shares of both Comcast and Versant. And then our go public date, so the first day that you or anybody can trade in Versant stock on NASDAQ, will be the following Monday. So Monday, January 5th will be our sort of birth date as a new public company.
What is your relationship with NBC going to be like going forward?
Yeah, I would. We with NBC have gone back and forth on what's the perfect analogy to describe it. Whether it's, I think the best one that I've come up with is we are we were twins, we were siblings or twins that shared a bedroom throughout high school, and now we've gone off to college and to different colleges, and so in some ways, and we had to divide up who was getting what in terms of the bedroom that we used to share. I would call us close cousins or something in that neighborhood going forward. From a legal perspective, we'll be completely separate. So, we will have, and one of the things that we've worked on over the past few months is from a league rights and a league relationship perspective, we'll be separate going forward. So, whether it's NASCAR or the PGA Tour or Premier League or WWE, we and our legal team spent a lot of time, either having contracts that will stay with NBCU like Olympics. That's a discussion with NBCU about continuing to air Olympics on USA Network and CNBC going forward. NASCAR is the opposite. NASCAR is a contractual relationship that is coming with us to USA Sports and Versant from a legal perspective. And then there's a discussion with, NBCU and NBC Sports about continuing to air 4 of the 14 races in the coming years on NBC, with 10 airing on USA Network. It really starts from the pledge that we collectively made to fans and to the leagues that wherever programming aired in 2024 or 2025, it would continue to air, or fans could continue to find that same programming on the same networks post-spin in 2026. And so, Olympics, that relationship stays with NBCU, but Olympic programming will continue to air, this winter and from LA on USA Network and CNBC. NASCAR we talked about was the inverse. And then the majority of our rights deals, we took one contract and split it into 2, so that there's a direct relationship between us and the PGA Tour for Golf Channel, but there's a direct relationship going forward between NBC and the PGA Tour for the events that air on NBC on Saturday, Sunday. So, from a legal perspective, completely separate. The same thing that I just described relative to our league partners, we're doing with our talent as well. So, golf talent, for instance, if Terry Gannon, which he will continue to spend time on both Golf Channel and NBC going forward. He'll have a direct relationship with us for Golf Channel and USA Network, and then a separate direct relationship with NBC Sports going forward for the work that he does, whether it's golf or Olympics or NBA over there. So legally separate, but from as we continue to use each other's programming on respective networks, we'll continue to be very close in terms of that regard. And then, as we look at new sports rights, we'll, all other things being equal, Rick Cordell and I have both said we'll be opportunistic, and where it makes sense for each of us to continue to partner, we will absolutely do so, and we'd like to do so. But for us as Versant and USA Sports, we will have a unique opportunity to partner with others. Whereas 100% of the time we previously would have partnered with NBC Sports and Peacock, we will have the opportunity to partner with others where it makes sense as well.
It's not even a trend anymore. Everybody's doing it. The idea of streaming, and you've seen, ESPN launched ESPN Unlimited. They have, Paramount Plus, Peacock, of course, you've been dealing with for a while. Your old company, Warner Brothers Discovery, who knows where they're going to go if they go to Netflix and go off on their own. They've talked about, well, we really do have to set up our own streaming service to get out there. How are you viewing that aspect of the business with Versant, or not with Versant, with USA Sports?
Yeah, I mean, we continue to be super bullish on the well, I'll call it the linear model. But the linear model, there's a healthy component of the linear model which already involves streaming. So if you just look at all across Versant in the trailing 12 months, over 14 billion hours of content was viewed across the 8 Versant networks. So 14 billion, a healthy amount of which was live sports. And so as a number that exceeds many, if not most, of the streamers and most other media companies in terms of total consumption or viewership across our networks for the past 12 months. So there's a lot to continue to be bullish about in terms of that core business, and we are, even as we will try to transform that business with the addition of digital businesses like we talked about. A lot of those hours were consumed via our own or via MVPD streaming platforms. So authenticated streaming, whether it's through the YouTube TV platform or any of our other distributors, or the USA Network platform. So those are ubiquitous and extremely user-friendly streaming platforms of our linear networks. And so that's our strategy for now. We're leaning into it. Again, we think that the number of hours viewed across our networks, when you combine both linear delivery but also the streaming delivery via authenticated streaming, super healthy. That's our strategy for now.
And I saw in your investor conference the amount of money that you still make from these cable channels and that type of streaming that you talked about it's still that's a significant business that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. It's a good and significant business. It is not a growing business. We realize that, but as a core business, it's 7+ billion in revenue, 2+ billion in EBITDA. That's a good sized business, and really what it is it's a great jumping off point, or as we say, where it makes us an exceedingly well funded startup, so that we can look at investing in that core business to continue to have it be as healthy and as large for as long a period of time as possible, but also really good cash flow that we can look at these other businesses that are adjacent to this core business.
It's so wild to hear you say that. USA Network, that's one of the original cable networks. I believe it was among the first cable networks to have sports back with Kate Kopovitz doing an NBA deal back in the day. And you're talking about it in startup terms, the most old school of cable networks is now a startup. That's a pretty unique way to look at it.
Yeah, and that was actually some of the appeal of joining Versant for me personally as well. You have this sort of freedom and flexibility of a startup, but you have that history and that legacy, whether it's of USA Network or the the financials that are moving over. So it's sort of the best of both worlds in terms of stability and legacy and history, but also really the ability to pick a new name for the sports division and pick our team members, whether they're new from the industry, like Muriel Brady, who joined as our new VP of programming, or the predominance of our team that's moving over from NBC Sports. It was a unique opportunity to get the benefits and the safety of a strong legacy business, but the sort of fun and the ability to build from scratch part that exists with the startup.
Matt, I want to take one more quick break. I want to come back and I want to get into one of my favorite topics, sports rights. So, Matt, I know, NFL rights are coming up maybe next year, maybe the year after. And I know that you're not going to be sitting down trying to pick up a package of NFL sort of live game rights. Is there something that you can do around the NFL, though? Are there a bucket of rights that would fit in with your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we've been public about our sort of lens through which we'll look at future sports rights. And so obviously leagues like the NFL and the NBA, I mean, they are amazing leagues with, just incredible programming and just deep, 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 deep fan bases. Um, we will be, and we have to be disciplined in terms of the types of sports that we look at acquiring going forward. And for us, discipline just means sports that we feel like we can, from a pure financial perspective, generate a return on, from our combination of distribution revenue and from advertising revenue. So as wonderful as those properties are, properties like the NFL and the NBA, they don't fit our profile in terms of ability to make a return from them. They obviously do for others, but just not for what we're looking to do and how we're looking to transform our core business. Is there something
Well,
to
so let me
do?
ask a quick question on that though. Like, let's say the NFL comes to you like with a highlight type show or a highlight driven show. Is that something like
Right.
is that not nearly core enough for you, or is that something that you would be interested in doing?
I mean, obviously, something like that, if we feel like we can, serve the NFL well and serve fans well and generate a return from, we would of course be interested. I think from a synergy perspective, it probably makes the most sense for a media company that has live rights because you're able to push viewers back and forth and drive tune in and promote that whatever you're doing digitally on air. So probably the greatest synergy exists for an existing broadcaster. But if something like that afforded us the ability to partner with the NFL and made sense for our business, then of course it's something that we look at.
So as you sit down at the table and you have your spreadsheets and everything, there's sort of a middle class of sports that's sort of getting squeezed a little bit because that the NFL is and the NBA and soon to be baseball is taking so much money out of the market. Uh, there's a middle class that's there. There's also sort of an up and coming sports that aren't are having a trouble finding media deals that are out there. What are you what do you think is more core to Versant or to USA Sports? Is it sort of the middle class that's getting squeezed, or are they up and coming, or is it obviously it's a mixture of both? I would think.
Yeah, I mean the properties that we have, we're super bullish on, and they do work well for us in terms of the lens through which we look at sports and ROI as we talked about. So NASCAR, the PGA Tour, Premier League, and our other portfolio of properties. We're very happy with them, and they work well for us. In terms of new properties, when we sit down and look at what else is out there. I would say in investment terms, we have a bit of a growth strategy. So, we're looking at and are excited about properties that we feel like there's still they're mid hockey stick or there's a potential hockey stick still to come. A lot of those growth properties happen to be women's sports. So we're certainly bullish on women's sports, but we're also, we don't just sort of broadly classify all women's sports together. It would sort of be like just classifying all of sports or men's sports together and saying we're bullish on the whole thing. But why a lot of the sports that we're newly investing in, whether it's the WNBA, a new deal that we just announced with the WNBA, whether it's Love Volleyball, another new deal that we announced in the past few months, or us working with the LPGA and FM to double down on the coverage of LPGA going forward. Yes, those all happen to be women's sports, but I would say from a business perspective, what really binds them more so than the fact that they have female athletes is we're confident and are bullish on each of those sports just in terms of their growth and feel like if we partner with them the same way, say we've partnered with Premier League since 2013 or the PGA Tour since 1999, that we can do, and I think and hope these leagues feel the same way, that we can add our experience in terms of programming and production and marketing and creating sticky experiences with fans. If we can do for the WNBA or for Love Volleyball or for the LPGA what we've done, with and for the Premier League or the PGA Tour, that together we can really grow those properties, and turn them, into sort of the mainstays for our networks, the way we have for some properties in the past. And so, we say internally and externally that we've got a bit of a women's sports strategy that we're investing substantially in. But I would say, more than the fact that those are all women's sports, they're really growth properties, and we're bullish on them as growth properties. And I think why they're partnering with us is this history that we have of promotion and production, and helping them grow audience and fandom as well.
You name checked Bornstein earlier. I'm sure you listened to the interview that I did with him. I asked him the up and coming sport, and he mentioned volleyball, and he's big on volleyball. How did you identify? Let's dive into volleyball for a second, because that caught me off guard that would be the one that he would suggest. How did you identify that as an up and coming sport? What metrics are out there that made you say, like, yeah, this is something that I want to invest in with Versant?
Yeah, so I did hear Steve say that. We did with
Did you put him up
CNBC.
to that, Matt?
No, not at all. We separately, John, with CNBC did, or I should say, CNBC did, a sports summit out in LA recently where CNBC partnered with Boardroom on it, and I think it was Alex Sherman asked the commissioners of I think it was Big 12, Big East, and ACC to each identify a sport that they were most bullish on in terms of growth, and all three of those commissioners identified women's volleyball. So Steve's in good company with the three commissioners. There, I'm not exactly sure why there's so much growth potential for women's volleyball. Obviously, participation numbers are good, but participation doesn't always equal success as a media property. There's lots of activities that a large number of people participate in that doesn't translate into viewership or your or my willingness to watch other people participate in that sport, even if they're professional. So I'm not exactly sure why why all of us, including our team and our own math, projects women's volleyball so highly, but it's certainly having a moment. We and it's really Celia Cole, who I mentioned earlier, who architected the strategy for connecting with the Love team, and we're really as partners. We think that partnership will be really collaborative, but more than that, it's an asset that we do feel strongly has a lot of growth potential.
That's interesting. You're not unique as a media executive. When I ask about, like, why those rights, the idea of feel coming into it is, and you cited, the commissioners, you cited Bornstein, you cited, other people in the room, but there is definitely like a feel that comes through.
Yeah.
With USA,
As we always say with our rights acquisitions and programming teams, there's a bit of a feel, and then there's got to be some math behind it as well. So I think in this case, it's a good combination of both.
how do you program this?
Yeah. So what we'll do with Love, which is exciting because it's a perfect complement to what we'll do with WNBA as well. So we'll have a match of the week for Love that starts in January. So in just a couple weeks here, on Wednesday nights in prime time on USA Network. And so we'll do that, and then we'll air playoffs and the Love championship game on USA as well. But really what we'll do is we'll create a franchise for Love Wednesday nights on USA Network. That season will conclude in April, and then it's a perfect handoff to the start of the WNBA season, which will be in May, where our franchise will then be Wednesday night doubleheaders. So we'll have 50 plus WNBA games on USA Network the first year. of an 11-year deal. So 50 plus regular season, playoff, and in 26 we'll have the finals as well. So 3 of the 11 years for WNBA will have the finals on USA Network. And so from a programming standpoint, Wednesday nights, January through April, will be Match of the Week for Love, and then that'll be that. Love will then hand the baton to WNBA starting perfectly in May, where we'll then have double headers in the regular season through the playoffs, also on USA Network. So, that really worked well because we knew that our night for WNBA was likely going to be Wednesday, and so that allowed us to work with Love to say, hey, we'd love to have this franchise for Love also be on Wednesday nights on USA Network, and then the seasons matched up perfectly.
All right, you can't say women's volleyball. What's the up-and-coming sport that I should buy stock in?
That is a good question. I think for us, if I were you, I would double down on NASCAR. So, NASCAR, our ratings were flat to slightly down this past year. I think that's going to be a lot different going forward. I think we, with the league, have some learnings. NASCAR went from having 2 partners for their national for the Cup Series package, and whether it was start times or day of the week or just general programming, it's a big lift to go from having 2 media partners to 4 media partners like NASCAR had this past year. And then not only is it 4 media partners, but you've got one that's linear, a combination of over the air and pay and Fox, and then you hand off to Amazon for Prime Video, which is just it's a streamer, and just very different from an audience consumption and habit perspective than Fox. And then, you go to TNT, which is pay television with simulcasts on HBO Max. And then you go back to, a linear television provider in both USA Network and NBC. So the 4 different media partners across 6 different networks, I think that was a lot for the long-standing or new NASCAR fan to kind of figure out this past year. And I think we with NASCAR have some learnings about how we'll, whether it's information, and a lot of what we need to do occurs between Sundays, as I say. And so if I were you, I would take your stake in NASCAR and I would increase your stake in NASCAR.
All right, good answer. Matt, it's great to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining the Varsity, and I hope to see you soon, man.
Yep, we'll see you in person soon. Thanks for having me.
I love listening to Matt talk about the strategy there. It's taking these old school cable channels and just figuring out these are still good businesses, and we're going to keep doing this business for as long as we can. So I want to thank Matt for taking the time to join me this week. Thanks also to Jamie Palatini and Aaron Calhoun for their help in getting all of this set up. More importantly, though, I want to thank you for listening to The Varsity, an Odyssey podcast in partnership with Puck. I also want to shout out the executive editors from Puck. That's Gabi Grossman, Ben Landy, John Kelly, and the great team from Odyssey, Bob Tabador and Patrick Antonetti. And I can't forget our new partners with Nesson, Greg Poth and Mark Merlaka. If you like this podcast, make sure to sign up for my newsletter. It's also called The Varsity. Head over to puck.news and use the code word TheVarsity, all one word, for a 20% discount. And I will see you on Wednesday.